We'll get this week's market update started here. We'll start with the load board postings. Saw another slight decrease in the loads on the load board. I'd say we'll stay on that pretty consistent line until springtime. We'll flip over to this next slide where you can see where those loads are coming from. We saw a pretty big decrease here in the west, south, and east. So we saw Iowa come back up. We've seen the Midwest. There was a lot of loads moving, a lot of grain moving. They're right before the end of the year, trying to get everything done so everyone can have their product in their bins. Um, Arizona, New Mexico, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Ohio saw lower loads in those areas, in those states. That's probably the big reason for the decrease in the west, the east, and the south there uh, on the number of loads in those places. Not as much headed into Colorado, Utah, Tennessee. They saw a few lowered loads for their destination. So if you're trying to get into those places, it'll be a little more difficult. As you can see here, like I was talking about on the last one, Iowa had a big increase again. We're lower out here in Utah and Colorado. Ohio also had a decrease on number of loads. So just keep that in mind for the holidays here in the first of the year. Fuel prices, we saw a bit of a decrease, 11% cheaper than this time last year, 1% increase from last week. New England and California saw a slight decrease, but not much to talk about to speak of. I'd say that'll be a big deciding factor for next year. I'd say we'll be right in that middle. It won't be that consistent what I'd drawn there, but I'd say that's where we'll be on the fuel prices for the majority of the country coming into next year. A big thing we've been talking around here in the office, they're talking quite a bit of ice and snow. Some places around Kansas City, I know they were talking up to a foot of snow. Here in southern Missouri, Kansas, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky as well, they were talking some ice accumulation. Keep that in mind if you're running loads next week. Give yourself some extra time to pick up, drop off, get those in, so you're not waiting for other loads. The wind chill next week is also supposed to be quite frigid. These negative numbers that you're seeing here are supposed to come down into the central United States. If you don't usually run winterized diesel fuel, you'd probably better take a look at that. Check with your local gas station or fill up. Make sure they're conditioning their fuel. If not, do it yourself as well. Some other big things there in Greenfield, Iowa. There was a trucking company that caught fire, had quite a bit of damage, that was looking to rebuild. Also at a Tyson plant, there was an explosion that killed a lady in a truck. Her husband was a driver, not for Tyson, but she was there. So there's a lot of risk, even if you're not driving the truck, around the trucking industry, especially with the ice coming up, slips, falls. Check those steps before you get out of the truck. Something I wanted to look at, I've been hearing a lot of optimism about rates and stuff for trucking. On the graph right here from ACT, what I think they're looking at is I think they're watching this line. I think they're expecting it's going to be like 16 to 17 or even 19 to 20, the increase there. I think that we're going to be more on the lines of this beginning on here on the graph around that 15, 16. So I think we're going to level off and stay pretty consistent on that freight rates index there. Part of the reason is these graphs on the right side, you can see that there was a decrease in trucking authority numbers. This is for grain, feed, and hay and dry bulk. So just in the bulk load sector, the ag sector, you can see a little bit of a decrease there, which gave a lot of people optimism that there's not going to be as much competition. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this graph is going to follow more of this line here instead of tapering off. Part of that makes me think that is these numbers at the bottom. These numbers at the bottom are newly created carrier authorities. 2024 has seen the highest number of carrier authorities for grain, feed, and hay or dry bulk in the history of the FMCSA that I could find on the data. So more people entered the market right now, which everyone has been saying is a soft market than ever before. So that makes me think that with the fuel prices we talked about on a few slides back, operating costs are going to be a little bit lower. There's going to be a lot more people getting into it. I don't think we're going to see a decrease in carrier authorities. Now, number of trucks on the road, profitable trucks, we'll see that. And part of the drop there, even because we've been having more people create ones, that tells me a lot of the older companies or the mismanaged companies that have been going out of business. So we'll see with the fuel prices coming down, if those companies can sustain. I think we'll see these load growth numbers continue to increase, which will be more competition for you guys on the trucking side as well. I wanted to look at commodity prices here. There's been some discussion about this as well. You can see commodity prices are quite a bit down. Corn, soybean, wheat, and cotton are down since 2022. I think we're going to see that continue to slack off. We're not going to see those 2022 prices or even 2012 prices either, or 2011 prices for some of the other commodities. I think those prices are going to stay down, especially with Trump's trade wars. You can see during his tenure in office last time, there was a large area of declined prices for these commodities. Just competition and trade has a big impact on that. So when you're looking at these trucking rates or you're trying to get stuff moved, if you're brokering loads out, it's nice to watch these numbers. If corn and soybean are not worth much, the margins to get that moved are going to be quite a bit less. So as a trucking industry, you can use those as factors to watch for, that your rates are going to go down if commodities are going down, or if there's a lot of upset in the market. What it looks like is commodity prices, which was a lot of what we're moving on the load board, are depressed. Carrier authority numbers, I suspect, are going to go up. A lot more competition, lower rates on the commodities you are moving. Margins for those guys to get them moved are a lot less. So we'll see on the prices on that. Going back to what I first said, there's been a lot of talk about wait times at grain facilities. A lot of that grain was moving right before the end of the year. People playing musical chairs and didn't want to have it in their facilities at the end of the year. So those rates are I saw an 11% increase that last week of the year there, which you did not see on the fertilizer. Saw a 7% decrease, or the feed ingredients. A lot of those, once they're processed, the fertilizer, the feed ingredients, you're not seeing a lot of grain. You're not seeing a lot of trading of that stuff. That's going to the end user. So there's not a whole lot of that bouncing around at the end of the year, especially with the feed ingredients. Facilities are, keeping it slow. New Year's being in the middle of the week really threw a lot of things off. But that grain, we saw a big jump at the end of the year. The wait times on those, if you got stuck at facilities, and there was a lot of guys not getting paid detention time. A lot of the unloading facilities running bare minimum for guys on the unloading and loading, so making wait times even worse. That's all I've got for this week. Things to keep in mind. We'll watch commodity prices and fuel. Those will be the big impact. I think we're going to see more people enter the atmosphere, new authorities and such. So beware of that, as well as the upcoming winter, the cold and the ice and the snow. Keep safe with that stuff. Make some extra plans. Keep some extra clothes in the truck if you get stuck in some chains as well. So if you have anything else, please let us know.